Who's starting it?
How's everybody doing? It's Hank back with their Two Birds and a Third football podcast weekend review. I'm here with Josh and Ricky. Ricky, what are we discussing here?
Okay, so today we're having a bit more of it's an interesting week, that's for sure. So first thing we're gonna start off, we're gonna do like a bit of a quick team roundup. It shouldn't take that long. But then we're gonna get into concussion protocol and penalties in regards to concussions. What's a catch? That whole fiasco. Along with officiating itself, whether that be from the Raiders game, the Raiders and Cowboys, that Patriots and Steelers game, or just in general. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about the NFC South race. Who do we think is going to make it? Is someone going to fall off? Stuff like that. And then I believe that should do it, and then we'll get to picks.
And then we'll get to our game picks at the end of it. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Had some good games of football. Aside from DJ, we all came out with a win today, or win this weekend, so that's good. Why don't we get right into it, guys? Ricky, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I was thinking about waiting to talk about the officiating aspect, but we'll just look at the football.
Yeah, look at the game as it was.
Okay, so let's start off. Basically, the Cowboys actually, pretty much started where they left off to be fair. I mean, they were moving the ball at will. Unfortunately, it's just unfortunate because, Dak, he threw 2 picks. He didn't throw a touchdown. Yeah, people want to say he sucks, but it's like if you pay attention, literally, Dak did with the people don't realize that just because a quarterback throws an interception doesn't mean they can't lead a team to victory. I mean, when Romo threw 5 interceptions, it's like people forget that happened.
Yeah.
But my point is the fact is I knew this was going to be a close game. It ended up being a close game, and arguably the Cowboys should have definitely earlier, but unfortunately they didn't. I mean that missed field goal from the Raiders definitely came to bite them because and I just want to say this because this isn't really officiating. This is more has to do with football sake. I don't know why the Raiders didn't run it. You have 30 seconds left on the clock. I know you're going for the game. Listen, David Carr scrambling, yes, that was a good play. The problem that I had was him diving because he had the first down. All he had to do was literally slide or just run out of bounds, which was the smarter play. And if he runs out of bounds, right, then you're at the one with first and goal with Marshawn.
I'll tell you why. Because he's a gamer. And because you never know, you might be first and goal, and you might get stuffed 4 times. That happened to the Ravens against the Browns on the Ravens' opening drive. They got their second drive of the game. They marched all the way down the field to the 1-yard line, and 4 plays in a row, they got stuffed right at the line.
That's where you end up seeing Madden game planning moving apart from real game planning because you want to score the touchdown. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
In a video game, it's easier for you to stall out your opponent because in any situation you have a money play. You have a money play that's going to get you 2 yards. You have a money play that's going to get you 5 yards. You have a money play that's going to get you 10 yards. It's very different in that sense. And he's like Josh said, Derek Carr is a competitor. He wanted to get more, but unfortunately, his competitive edge was a double-edged sword. It ended up screwing him in the end.
Right, because if he just held on to that football and when he got bumped out of bounds and hit that pylon, that's the game. They win.
Yeah,
more than that's likely. The thing is that you can say shouldn't have done it. Then you fumble the ball and give it right back to them. But with 30 seconds left, he thought he had the corner. He thought he could make it, and he just happened to fumble. Last year, with the way things bounced for the Raiders, it probably would have gone the other way, and they would have won, and it would have looked like Derek Carr is the ultimate gamer and won that game for them.
Honestly, 9 times out of 10, you get the touchdown right there. It's just that one. It's just that one time, or that 10% chance that you end up, and the way I saw it, Jeff Heath really didn't have anything to do with Carr fumbling. That was his fault. Just it's completely on him. He let go of the ball previous to going into the end zone. I mean, it just happened.
Exactly. The ball slipped out of his hand. I mean, you can say Heath was the reason why because he was chasing him to the corner, but it's not like Heath crushed him and knocked the ball out. It's just
good enough of a nudge, to force it out. But you know what I mean, but look, looking at this from a football game perspective, it was an amazing game. It came down to the wire. I know a lot of people got upset with the officiating. We'll get into that because, honestly, the officiating didn't have to make it as dramatic as they needed to make it.
Definitely not.
But but the Cowboys are 8-6 now. They are definitely in the hunt at this point. They're going to be in a winner go home. Excuse me, not winner take all. A winner keeps their playoff hopes alive for the following week against Seattle, which is going to be definitely a definite game of the week, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it is the game. I think it is football's game of the week.
It's America's game.
Fox, yeah.
What is this week?
Seahawks, Cowboys is America's game of the week, and it's happening at the exact same time as the Giants Arizona game. So, but if you're in the Bay Area, you won't get to watch that game on TV. You have to you have to have a Sunday ticket for that. Because you know how the 49ers have a post-game show in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
So
no, that's not why. It's because their game is on.
No, Hank. No, the 49ers game is during the same time.
Oh, okay. 49ers
okay. Is 105.
It's on CBS. Okay. Well, that happens. Why. That happens too. So, I think that's really the game I'm looking at more so than even my game. Not that I'm overlooking the Raiders, but.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say the Eagles have nothing to play for, but in all honesty, they pretty much nearly got everything wrapped up. But, I'm not saying that they do, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good last couple of weeks. There's a lot of teams fighting. There's 9 teams in the hunt for the AFC right now who could, make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. 7, not including the Patriots and the Steelers because they're both clinched.
Yeah. I have a question, Josh, before we get to your team. Do the Ravens control their own destiny if they win out, right? If
they win out, then yes, they make it. Even if the other teams win out because they end up having common opponents that they have better records against or something like that. So even if the Bills and the Ravens both win out, if the Bills beat the Patriots and the Dolphins and the Ravens beat the Colts and the Bengals, then the Ravens still have the record to get it in. They need to win out, though.
Got it.
Yeah. So I was actually just looking it up today. I think they have an 84% chance to make the playoffs, just counting their schedule plus the strength of the other team's schedule. Right now we're tied with the Bills and I think the Chargers.
Don't be surprised.
But once again,
don't be surprised if the Titans start to slip away.
I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, I can see the Titans slipping away.
The Titans are 8.
Because they still have to play.
6, right?
They still have to play the Jaguars again, but the Jaguars do have to play Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think that's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo's biggest test is against the Jaguars this weekend.
All right, so let's get to the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good solid game. Once again, we're back in the lead in the league for takeaways. We got 4 big takeaways this game. So that's, our defense is showing up. It is against the Browns, but when you're getting takeaways and you're not giving any takeaways away, that's always going to lead to wins. I don't know if you guys knew this, but since week 8 in the NFL, the Ravens are number 3 in points scored per game by their offense. And it's not getting talked about. Averaging about 30 points a game since week 8. We're about to be in week 16. So you're talking about 8 weeks of solid football played. And I just think it's going to be, it's just exciting to see this team start gelling the way they are, where the offense and the defense are both making, strides to be a complete team. And I'm just really excited to see the next 2 games because it's going to just let us go and see what we really have in this team come, hopefully making a shot for the playoffs.
Hey, Josh, I got a question.
Yo.
Are you talking about the
I gotta-
playoffs?
Playoffs? No, I said if we get to the playoffs. I said it would be a good measuring stick if we get there.
And of course, we're all hoping Hank's going to the playoffs. We're hoping everybody's team goes to the playoffs because then it makes it even more fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, DJ team can't make it.
Well, no, of course they're in the playoffs for getting the number 1 pick. So
yeah, they're gonna get the number 1 pick. God, it's so sad.
they might get the top.
They basically automatically have it because of the fact that
They only
the
have 2
Giants have
games.
2 wins and they have no wins.
Yeah.
So it
exactly.
might come down to a coin flip.
So if they won the last 2, I think the Giants would still get the 2nd pick because they have wins against common opponents.
No. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has they flip a coin.
No, they do not,
They,
Hank.
they do. If 2 teams have the same record, they flip a. It has nothing to do with It has nothing to do with overall points because I remember one year both the Dolphins and the Browns ended with the same record. Miami beat the Browns late in the season, I think, and the Dolphins still had the 2nd overall pick. The Browns had the 3rd overall pick. So it doesn't have anything to do with that. They flip a coin if there are 2 teams. That's literally what it comes down to. According from what I know, that might be a Hank fact. So look it up.
Yeah, Hank fact.
All right. So yeah, I mean, the Ravens they're that team that was at the lowest of lows, and then they've won 3 out of 4 games.
They've won 4 out of 5. They
Okay.
lost to the Steelers in there.
Okay. Yeah.
We won 4 out of.
And that game
We
was
won
tight.
We won a 3-game winning streak,
Same
and
here.
then we lost to the Steelers, and then we just beat the Browns.
Yeah. And that game,
Yeah.
I saw this one play in that game where it was I don't know if it was a 3rd down or a 4th down in the Reds at the 4-yard line, and the Browns were playing off coverage, and the guy in the middle wasn't even spying Flacco, and he just ran it in for his statue
exactly.
ass ran it in for a touchdown.
Yeah, Flacco's rushing touchdown that he scored. Yeah. I just think, like I said, I think a really understated thing for the Ravens right now is actually their offensive line play. They've kept Flacco clean, and though Cleveland is really bad, they have some solid pass rushers. And same with the Steelers. We came within 1 point of the Steelers and put up 38. And at the time we played the Steelers, they were the number 4 defense in total yards allowed in the NFL. So I think
one more tidbit before I get to my game. Kelly and I were watching the game on Red Zone, where they ended up showing it, and they're like, "We're gonna go over to the Cleveland Browns Baltimore Ravens game," and Deshaun Kaiser was at the 2-yard line, and I said to her, "This is not going to be a good play for the Browns," and he ended up fumbling in the end zone for a touchdown. And I was like, "Wow, I was totally right."
Gosh. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Them brownies. All right. So the Eagles against the Giants.
Your man crush.
Yeah, my man Crush. He started his first game of the season, threw 4 touchdowns. It was like I told Ricky, I knew this would be a really close game. A lot of people were telling me, "Oh, the Eagles are going to win by 17." But the Eagles had a really bad defensive game plan against the Giants.
They could have lost if
They could have lost this
Giants
game, but the real MVP is not really Nick Foles. The real MVP are the special teams, because the Eagles had 1 blocked punt, 1 blocked field goal, and 1 blocked extra point. So, yeah. So it was
Did they really have that many blocks in that game?
Yeah, that's the first time all 3 things have happened since 1991.
Wow.
So those are the real MVPs. I mean, Nick Foles, he did his thing, but at the same time, twice he had a short field to work with. Not to mention Ronald Darby had an interception. So Eli Manning picked the Eagles apart, I will say that. But I think it's more because of a bad game plan than it was anything. I think that Jim Schwartz got real cocky because because in the first few drives, the Eagles were blitzing and Eli was getting the ball out of his hands really quick with slants. The one thing I will say is that these guys have got to be these DBs have got to be bumping and running these guys, these practice squad wide receivers. And I'm disappointed in the game altogether because really the strength of the Eagles was their defense coming into the Seattle game, but the defense has not played well for 3 weeks, and really this is showing the blueprint on how to exploit the team. Most people were like, "Oh, we're screwed because we got Nick Foles and we don't have Carson Wentz." And like I told everyone, it's Gucci. We got Nick Foles. Okay, I've got confidence in the guy. Okay, I don't think he's as good as Carson Wentz, but he's still good enough to be competitive and help win games.
Yeah, he can win games for you. I mean, he was a starter in the league,
until he met Jeff Fisher.
And Hank, I think Nick Foles stepped in there great because when their defense let them down, Nick Foles was making the plays that Carson Wentz was making.
Yeah.
He was evading defenders. He was throwing on the run. He was finding open receivers. That one pass to Torrey Smith that Torrey Smith drew a flag on.
Yeah.
That was great of him to move in the pocket, money. See Torrey, get in a place where Torrey had a chance. If Torrey would have caught that would have been a touchdown. Instead, he got the PI and moved him down to the 2-yard line.
Yeah. And I'm not really going to talk about the officiating until we actually talk about the officiating for what we're talking about, because I wasn't really happy with some of the calls made, but in no way would I have said that they would have cost the Eagles the game. But they basically played flawlessly on offense. It was a tough game to watch because the Giants are 2-11. I'm embarrassed. I'm happy the team won, of course. I'm never upset at a win. Even when the Eagles had Chimp, I was never upset with a win. But I am upset about how the team played because I believe they could play better than that. But also, you could always make the excuse that it's a division game, and when you play division opponents, they sometimes get the best of you. I mean, heck, what was it? 2 weeks ago, the Patriots lost to the Miami Dolphins, and
right.
The Patriots shouldn't lose to I'm not saying that the Dolphins are a bad team because they've got a lot of really good players on their team, but the Patriots shouldn't lose to the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my piece.
The Patriots shouldn't, but once again, Hank, it's a division game.
Exactly.
There was a stretch in there actually where the New York Jets had the Patriots number. No matter how bad they were, there was a stretch in there where New York was giving it to the Patriots for a couple years. I think they won 4 out of 6 in 3 years or something like that.
Something like that.
And so I always attribute when a bad team plays a good team and it's close in the division like that. I mean, you can easily argue that it's because the division opponents.
Yeah, and I felt like the Giants were really motivated for that game. But at the same time, the Eagles had a really awful game plan. When you're playing against their practice squad receivers, you gotta play bump and run. You gotta play on them the whole time.
And I will say this: the Eagles definitely need to fix up. I think they can fix them up. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But my issue is that you want to make sure that the Eagles' defense is playing decent before you get to the playoffs, because the last thing you need to do is go up against a run-heavy team, whether that be I know the Saints aren't run-heavy, but teams with good running backs, like the Saints, the Rams, the Vikings. The point is you don't want to go up against a team that has a solid running game, because if you do, we saw the Eagles, Rams. I know they won the game. Don't get me wrong, but the fact that Todd Gurley had his way,
Yeah, it was a really soft game. The Eagles have been playing really soft recently. Malcolm Jenkins, I understand that he is standing up for bad things that are occurring or unfairness to the African American community and the community of people who are not white, but the guy needs to play better because he was just elected to the Pro Bowl. And one thing I'll say about the Pro Bowl is a lot of people are complaining about the Pro Bowl, but the people who are crying about the Pro Bowl, you know what really matters in life, okay? Your Madden rating, okay? That's what really matters.
Your Madden rating. We'll cover some, maybe if we have a little bit of time at the end of this segment, we'll do a little Pro Bowl snubs from our team because there's a few on the Ravens that I cannot believe aren't even mentioned, you know. But Hank, I think you guys had a great game. I know it didn't look pretty, but you guys overcame the adversity of losing your starting quarterback, and you still went out there and hung up 30-plus points. So good job, guys.
Mm. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So, what are we going to talk about next?
What do you guys want to do? You want to talk about the concussion protocol / punishment or officiating?
Let's do concussions.
Okay. So, where do I begin on this? Like, what is this, like, another week?
Another week with another bad injury.
Yeah, and a suspension because of such injury.
Tom, so if you don't know what happened, because I got a chance to watch. I don't know if this game was in your guys' area, but they were showing the Carolina Panthers Green Bay Packers game, and Aaron Rodgers threw his second interception, I believe, and on the return, I forgot who intercepted the ball, but on the return, Davante Adams was the Packers receiver. He was, I don't think he was even in position to make a tackle, but Thomas Davis of the Carolina Panthers came by and just blindside blocked him, hit him in the helmet, and Davante Adams is currently in concussion protocol, and after the game complained that Davis went headhunting on him. And then Davis was like, dude, I didn't mean to hurt you. You were just there, and the injury sucks, and I'm sorry that it happened. Personally, and then, of course, Davis got a 2-game suspension, and it was changed to a 1-game suspension. I think the 1-game suspension is fair. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's fair.
I think 1-game suspension is fair because it's just kind of like, it makes the point of, hey, dude, watch it, you know? At the same time, I always argue that, hell, a blindside block, keep your head on a swivel, man.
But at the same time, it was a helmet-to-helmet hit. He hit him right in the helmet with the crown of his helmet, which is why I think that the 1-game suspension is valid. Because if he had pushed him, then we wouldn't be talking about this. But he led with the helmet and he hit him in the helmet, and it's unfortunate that happened. And of course, Kelly and I talk about this the whole time. And Rob just posted in the chat, do we need to does the committee need to employ a targeting system or adopt a targeting system and a video replay targeting system for next season, in which if you are guilty of targeting, you're out for half the game?
I think it needs to be. It can't be a definite ejection because, and I know I've had some people disagree with me about the ejection part. Here's my thing: the issue is that when it comes to targeting, it all comes down to the interpretation of the referees, and I think that you need to be extremely clear about what is the penalty. I think I said, because we talked about this last week, what I said was that if someone gets a flag for targeting, it's a 15-yard penalty. And that person automatically gets a fine, and what did I say? I think it's like a warning. I forget what I said. And then the second time, it's a suspension, like a 2-game suspension. I forget what I said, but the point is,
I kind of agree with you to the standpoint, but I think that unlike with this whole catch thing, they need to have a detailed thing in the rules where it says this is targeting, this is not targeting. Like it's targeting
Yeah.
if you hit the
Yeah.
guy if at any point you hit a defenseless player with the helmet, but it's not targeting if that player, like say he's still a defenseless player, but his head is like low to the ground. You know, like he's ducking and you're going at him. I don't agree with because in college targeting is also a hit to the shoulder. It's also a blindside block, and it's also a block where you leave your feet, where you lead your feet and lunge into the player. But I think to start out with, I think like a 2 or 3 game or 2 or 3 series suspension is more warranted. You know, where like you get kicked out of the game for 2 or 3 series. I think that's
it would be
good
like
to start
rugby
out
in
with.
rugby where you go to the sin bin and you like you can't come onto the field for like, you know, a certain amount of time. Maybe if it happens in the first half, you have to stay off the field until halftime, even if
kinda
it's in
like-
first quarter
So
on
kind
the
of like
first play.
kind of like a
You
power,
know?
kind of like a power play, but you don't lose a player during it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't lose a player because that would just make the game.
You don't lose a
incredibly
position. You
unfair,
don't
you
lose
know,
a
but-
position. You don't lose a position for that.
You don't lose the what?
You don't like say your center does it. You bring another center onto the field. You don't lose. You can't. You don't have. It's not like 10v11 or something like that.
Right. And I think it should only apply to a direct, like, targeting. Like, I mean, and then there's still ejections. Like, don't get me wrong. There should still absolutely be ejections.
Mm-hmm.
The Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree, both of them should have been ejected.
Yeah.
You know? Rob Gronkowski, he should have been ejected.
Yeah, that was.
But
obviously.
if it's like a Thomas Davis or Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe, yeah, you have to sit out of a certain amount of time of the game. Now, here's the thing, Hank, where the series, I don't think it's fair to do a series because what happens if you just go 3 and out? Is that really
then that happens.
I think it should be a longer period of time. Maybe a quarter.
DJ just commented, "You should be ejected, Josh."
Yeah, DJ got ejected from the winning seat again.
But I think that some sort of time set out is good. Is good depending on what happens. Like again, like everyone remembers the Odell Beckham, Josh Norman thing, where Odell Beckham obviously was targeting the back of Josh Norman's helmet, and he hit him in the back of the head, and like neither one was ejected, even though that was an egregious hit. Like obviously that is worse, and the Gronkowski thing, they're both worse than the Juju Smith-Schuster, Thomas Davis hit, you know?
Yeah.
So, what's your breaking news? Cowboys X Factor.
Oh, it's probably
Oh, okay.
make the playoffs. Oh man, here we go.
So the first offense is I definitely think it should be a fine, but I don't really know what should happen or what will happen, but I do think that they need to have that stuff written down. You know, it needs to be on paper, it needs to be voted on, and everyone needs to be clear on it, so that, you know, what happens with what we're going to talk about in a few minutes, you know, everyone's not completely surprised about it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just going to be hard, Hank, because, I mean, look at us. We can't even squarely right now decide on what they should do. You know, we can throw out ideas and then think until some real concrete ideas come out. Yeah, I think it should be almost like a penalty where you have to sit out, you know, so if it's targeting. But you're right. It needs to be in writing. It needs to be a clear this is what the rule is for targeting.
Yeah.
If you lower your head and leave your feet and make direct contact with the helmet, and like you said, the runner is not, is not unprotected if he lowers his shoulder to try to truck you, like that shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't get in trouble if, you're trying to lower your shoulder and then you end up running your head into somebody,
Yeah. No, I agree with that. So do you guys want to move on to the officiating?
Okay. I think we should, because we all know what this is going to be about. So.
Do you want to begin with the whole Raiders thing? The whole Raiders-Cowboys thing?
Yeah, let's start with the Raiders thing, because it's that's pretty easy to get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, twisted with this whole... the card out. Look, Gene Steratore made that very overdramatic. I thought Dak had the first down.
I thought he did too.
Because I felt like because he wasn't on the ground and he made a second push, which got him the first down. Gene even said he did have the first down. He would just wanted reconfirmation, but we all know he was just doing this to be overdramatic, like he always does.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is that should he have done the card thing? No, it wasn't necessary. He clearly said they had the first down. I never understood, because now this is what happens. This is what gets people less interested in football. From what I saw, is because I had people on Facebook be like, Cowboys got lucky because Bucks helped them out. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that should have been a first down to begin with, and like.
And
what was it?
Here's the other thing. If you put the card between the ball, and the end of the chain link, isn't there a space between the ball and the chain link?
Thing. I don't know.
So,
what I thought he did was put it on top of the ball.
Oh, okay. I think that this was like the whole thing about Gene Steratore, and hasn't Gene Skeletor, who hasn't reffed a Cowboys game since the did Dez catch the ball game. I really think that he kind of I'm not saying that it was an unfair game or anything like that, but I kind of knew the Cowboys would win that game because of what happened,
Mm-hmm.
Just because he hadn't reffed a game, one of their games for 3 years. It's just
he went from if we make the playoffs, he went people are gonna be like, oh, he went from Cowboys enemy number one to
it was like Dean Blandino, who went from the Cowboys fans' best friend, partying in the party bus with Jerry Jones, to becoming every Cowboys fan's worst enemy. I mean, Kelly can't even listen to Dean Blandino without hearing Dez dropped it. Yeah, that's
how I am when I see Dean Blandino too. It's programmed into my head nowadays. Oh, speaking of a catch, let's move on. Actually, probably the biggest talking point of the week.
Yeah.
Which was the Steelers-Patriots game ending in probably one of the most interesting ways.
Uh-huh.
Where basically it was coming down to the final drive. Pittsburgh just had to get a field goal to send the game to overtime after letting the Patriots score and get a 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
So Juju Smith-Schuster literally just does an amazing play, takes it down to about the 10.
Yeah.
Then I think on the next play, Roethlisberger throws it to Jesse James. Everyone thought it was a touchdown, but upon further review, they determined that it was in fact not a catch, but an incomplete pass.
Mm-hmm.
Then, a couple plays later, Ben Roethlisberger does the fake spike crap, and he throws it into quadruple coverage, and it gets intercepted.
Yeah.
Now, say this before we get into the catch thing. The Steelers had all of the opportunities to stop New England, and it didn't have to come down to that drive. They could have gotten that interception, which would have ended the game. They could have stopped them from driving down the field to get the touchdown. They could have stopped them on that 2-point conversion. For God's sake, they could have possibly thrown it out of bounds after that big play to go into overtime, which I thought that they could have won. And keep in mind, this is all without AB.
Yeah. All without Antonio Bryant.
Yeah,
Martavius Bryant.
Antonio Brown.
Um,
and no, it's a joke.
But
I want to
yeah.
read the rule because we're gonna get into the catch. This is what it's Rule 8, Section 1, Article 3, Item 1. The rule is as follows: a player is considered be going to the ground if he does not remain upright long enough to demonstrate that he is clearly a runner. Okay, I thought he was a runner.
Yeah.
If a player goes to the ground in the act of catching a pass with or without contact by an opponent, that's key, he must maintain control of the ball until after his initial contact with the ground, whether in the field play or the end zone. I know a lot of people wanted to say, but he crossed the plane, it should be a dead play. According to the rule, it doesn't matter.
It's just like the rule, like when you're falling out of bounds on the sideline or in the end zone. It doesn't matter that you caught it and your feet were down in the end zone. You need to maintain possession of it through the fall.
And it says right here, if he loses control of the ball, which he did, the ball kind of jumped out at the end.
We don't
and the
know.
ball touches the ground before he regains control, then the pass is incomplete.
But we don't 100% know if the ball ever touched the ground. We don't know that. We have to trust the officials to be like, okay, that's...
I thought it did, from what I saw.
Well, I wasn't sure. Well, like...
But, like, and people want to compare this to... Sorry, but people want to compare this to the Dez Bryant catch. Like, the Calvin Johnson and Dez Bryant thing, they're all unique.
Mm-hmm.
This is like he goes up, gets it, and he comes down with it, it pops up, it never hits her. I know a lot of people really want to hit the ground. Well, in this case, the ball popped up and he recovered in the end zone, which is weird because according to that rule, from what I'm reading, he caught it. But like this is annoying.
Yeah, because when he was falling and it hit the ground, you see his hands kind of that ball shifting around in his hand.
Right.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. You need to maintain control of it. Like it looks like, oh, my hand slipped off, and it was on the ground while his hand slipped off.
Yeah, exactly.
That means he was using the ground to maintain the catch. So that's why. I mean, I know every Steelers fan is going to be mad, but
no, that's
every Steelers fan was like, "Oh, that's the worst call in history." And it's like, yo, like there's at least 3 or 4 like famous plays that went your way that there's no possible way. Like there are 3 or 4 other worst calls in NFL. Like what, the immaculate reception. That one play against the Houston Oilers in the AFC Championship game where the receiver had both feet down inbounds and the referee called him incomplete. You know?
Yeah, here's the thing that ticks me off is that people want to point and laugh at the Dez catch, and they want to say, well, that's not a catch. But this is a catch. Look, I look at each case from the rule book's perspective. In my opinion, and people think I'm biased because I'm a Cowboys fan, but if you sincerely look at the play and you read the rule, I personally think Dez's was a catch because the ball never hit the ground. I've seen it from multiple camera angles, and he regains control in the end zone. As according to this, like if the ball doesn't hit the ground, as long as the receiver catches it or maintains possession, regardless, like. You know what I mean? Because he rolled over in the end zone, so I thought it was a touchdown in that play. Now, for Jesse James, right, when he was shifting to the end zone, a lot of people think, well, he crosses the pylon, therefore it should be a catch. No, according to the rule book, it doesn't matter. He has the maintained possession. If his hand had not moved and he stretched out, that's a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But because his hand moved,
Yeah. But I agree. Like, a lot of Steelers fans were like, that was the worst call in NFL history, and it's like, I don't have much sympathy for that. Sorry.
Yeah, I went on Facebook, and I legit posted the rule of the rule book onto my Facebook
was like, are you sure that's the rule? But, like, going back to kind of, like, the whole targeting thing, and... it kind of has something to do with this, but going back to the whole targeting thing, in a sense, you because like when that Calvin Johnson thing happened, like that was the first year that it was initiated, but everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, like I can't believe this was a rule." And it's like, yo, the competition committee voted for those rules, and then you have Mike Tomlin who's like, "This shouldn't be a rule." It's like, yo, you're the head of the competition committee, bro. You voted for that rule.
Yeah.
This is the thing that irks me the most. Like in the Raiders game, right? There was a play where I think it was number 10, Roberts or something.
Seth Roberts.
Yeah, when he goes to catch the ball, this is what kind of irks me, and I think they got to look at this. And no, it's not because it was a good catch, but it's just the ball. Like the ground helps him catch the ball because the ball like hits the ground. People might want to be like, "Well, he had possession." See, that's the thing. It's like there are some situations where I'd be like, "Well, like if the ground helps," and I thought this was a rule. If the ground helps you, catch the ball or maintain possession of the ball, it's an incomplete pass. Which I thought that's why they challenged it. That's what I thought, but apparently no. So
it's also Jason Garrett is.
I think you're insulting because you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I know, probably.
The thing is that.
But I thought it was a catch.
Yeah.
No, and then I'm like, it's whatever. I mean, it's a 50-50 shot. You know what I mean? But it's whatever.
Hey, look, and here's what it comes down to. On that replay of Jesse James scoring, not making that catch, the camera just ended up having the perfect angle to see his hands move. And they're like, nope, you didn't maintain possession of it. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's what irks me the most, Josh. You have, like, camera angles, like, with the Calvin Johnson, I forget, like, how that play went, but I think,
he caught the ball, and he goes to the ground, and then he kind of, like, spikes the ball.
Yeah.
He spikes the ball, and the ball leaves his hand.
Yeah.
He could have done without that. I don't know. It's officiating has been very strained, has been very fishy, especially when it comes to the New England Patriots, which the MVP of the Patriots always is the referees.
Yeah. And it's just tough too because, in this day and age with the super, super slow-mo and the millions of camera angles, we put so much strain on refs to be like, how could you not see that? Oh, I don't know, because they were watching it in real time, trying to see everything right there, and they don't have 10 different angles like we have, and we just watched it 50 times. So it's easy for us to be like, how could they call that? And, when they go back to review, I would say this. When they go back to the review, though, most of the time, they get the right call.
Yeah, most of the time.
When they review it.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean... look, at the end of the day, the Jesse James catch, quote unquote, that was the perfect illustration of the rule book going, into full effect. Do I think they should change it? Yeah, maybe they need to alter some things, but my thing is this. They should have changed it probably after the Dez one, but in my opinion, Dez caught it because of the way the camera angles were looking. I could understand. I don't know how I could understand them saying it wasn't. Like, if they were saying the ball hit the ground, I disagree. It's whatever. I want to just move on at this point to the NFC South race.
Yeah.
How that's heating.
I forgot about that.
Okay.
So
let me. Okay. I need to talk about this because this is important for my captain, obviously. Look, looking at this on a non-objective point of view, is mathematically impossible for either. For pretty much any of these teams to win out. You know what I mean? Like, the Falcons and Panthers can't both go 2-0 because they face each other in Week 17.
Mm-hmm.
The Saints and Falcons can't go 2-0 because they both face each other this week.
Yeah.
So, what's interesting is all the NFC South teams are playing each other, and this could be very key for the wild card chase for the other teams in the hunt.
Yeah.
Now, what makes this interesting is because I predicted that one team I thought there's going to be definitely two teams from the NFC South making the playoffs. I think one team is going to fall off. It's just a matter of which one. The most likely of them all is the Falcons because they play the Saints and the Panthers, and they both are going for playoff spots.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I guess the question that I'm posing is who do you think's going to win the division? Who do you think's going to make it to the wild card round? Both of them make it, or is someone getting knocked out?
My division order would be Saints, Panthers, Falcons, Bucks. Saints, they're rolling right now. They have such a balanced team, and that offense, for first time in a long time, has a really good running game. So I'm definitely going with Saints at the top. Panthers, they look like they're getting it together, even with Aaron Rodgers back, a rusty Aaron Rodgers who hadn't played in, however long it was, 6 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever. But still, the Panthers looked good, and they've looked good for a few games now. Then I just think the Falcons, they got a little Super Bowl slump right now. Plus, this week, they're playing in New Orleans, and I could see the Saints taking that as a revenge game against the time that the Falcons beat them earlier. And then you have the Bucks pulling up the back just because I think the Bucks need to figure they have the offensive weapons, and maybe it's a coaching issue. Maybe that team's not disciplined, but they have a few things they need to figure out before they can make the push and challenge the Saints at the top of the division.
Well, the question I had was that the Buccaneers can definitely play spoiler in this situation, and this is how. If, let's say hypothetically this week, the Bucks beat the Panthers, I'm not saying they will or will not, but if they do that and the Falcons lose, then those teams are in a winner goes to the playoffs, loser goes home situation. And, well, because there is a way that the Seahawks and Cowboys could squeak in if the Lions lose. So, let me give you the scenario. It's pretty simple. It's like if Atlanta, Carolina, and Detroit all lose, Seattle and Dallas would pretty much be playing for the final playoff spot, that being the 6th seed. And then basically the NFC South teams would be fighting for the final playoff spot and the 5th seed. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. I mean, it depends. I mean, anything is possible for all I know.
I think the Panthers will. I think the Saints and the Panthers will go. I don't have any confidence in the Falcons to beat one of those teams.
Especially how they've been playing. We just saw, literally, if it wasn't for the Bucks miscues, they would have lost that game.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the Falcons are a bad team. You're
just not confident in them.
I watched that game and I thought to myself, I don't have any confidence in this team because they kind of played weak on defense. I mean,
they do.
I mean,
they
they seem to be giving the Buccaneers were dropping every second. They were losing one player. They were losing 2 players. They were losing 3 players. They were losing 4 players. I just don't have any confidence in that. I have more confidence in the Detroit Lions, on the other hand, because they play the Bengals, and the Bengals they're not playing motivated football. And then they play the Packers without Aaron Rodgers at home. I also don't have very much confidence in the Seahawks either, just based off of the game that they played against the Rams, which is probably the worst loss in team history at home. I think right now it comes down to Detroit and the Cowboys to get that.
Okay, so before I get into this, I want to be very clear because I think we're also talking about the wild card chase as well. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's Seattle or Dallas are one of them's getting eliminated this week. Whoever wins stays alive and is probably, in my opinion, and this is what I predicted, going into this week, or even before this week, I said the Seattle and Dallas game is going to the playoffs because I feel like one of those teams in the NFC South is going to trip off. You know what I mean. And I thought that's going to be the Falcons because if you pay attention, they're playing 2 solid teams. And I know some people were saying, well, Panthers are probably going to rest their starters. Why would they? You
Yeah.
are a wild card team. You need as much momentum going in, and you're probably going to have to play the Saints to begin with. So you want to be as ready as possible.
Yeah.
So like,
I
you know, and
yeah. I don't see the Falcons making it. I see it coming down to the Lions and the Cowboys.
yeah, like, and actually, and like I said before, there is a way that we could possibly see, well, okay, if
That you can see the
Atlanta,
Seahawks. That you can see
like
the
I said,
Seahawks and the Cowboys.
what's that? Sorry.
That you can. Oh, hold on. That you can. That the Cowboys could make it, and so could the Lions, right?
Yeah, well, actually, Seattle and Dallas could make it if they could control their own destiny if this happened. If Tampa Bay wins, New Orleans wins, and the Bengals win, then the winner of Seattle versus Dallas is in control of their own destiny because both of these teams are sitting at 8-6. The winner goes into that 6th spot and is probably locked in as long as they win their next game, which both of them could possibly win.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, like, at the end of, this discussion, I'm just going to say that it's going to come down to and this is fun, don't get me wrong, like, I think this is amazing, like, it's a very tight race, and that's what's cool about it. And considering that all the teams are playing each other, again, that's another fun thing about that, and we'll find out. It's definitely going to come down to Week 17 because I feel like one of the NFC South teams or both of them are going to be 10-5 going into the last season, possibly.
Yeah, I could see that definitely. The Saints and the Panthers both look good, and I have both of them winning this weekend.
Yeah, same. I think that the Falcons are, based on how they played, I think that they're going to be no match for the Saints at home, and I think the Panthers are going to, considering the fact that they got that huge win over Green Bay. I know it's not, it's just a rusty Aaron Rodgers coming back, but still, I think Panthers roll. I think the Panthers and Saints are going to make it. It's just the determination. I think it's like the Saints clinch the division if they win, right?
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my prediction is before this week, I'm thinking it's going to come down to.
Oh no! That's not true. That's not true.
How do you mean?
Because if the Saints win and the Panthers win, then it still goes down to it. I mean, if the
only if they lose. That's right. Yeah.
Saints
if only
lose
if
in
the Panthers lose, then they clinch.
Yeah.
So to pretty much conclude my assessment of this topic, basically my prediction is that this Week 17 and how am I going to word this? I think that it's going to be between Seattle and Dallas who makes it for the 6th seed, and the 5th seed is going to be the winner of that final game between Atlanta and Carolina. And people are saying, well, what about Detroit? I just think Detroit's due for a letdown game, personally. And I'm not trying to say that as like a biased fan that wants their team to get into the playoffs, maybe. But it's just like we've seen Detroit do this. Like, remember last year they were sitting at 8-4 and they lost 3 out of their last 4. They just literally needed to win like 1 or 2 more games, and they would have clinched the division, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna be.
I mean, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. No, not in the playoffs, but for the playoffs. I think that a lot needs to go right for the Cowboys to get in, and I don't know if it's going to go right for the Cowboys.
We've seen stuff like this happen. I'm not saying it is going to happen, but who knows?
Yeah, we've seen it happen. We've absolutely seen it happen.
Okay, so have we talked about everything?
Yeah,
I think we got everything.
Cool. So let us get to picks. Before we get into that, I must tell you how everyone did. Pretty good week for pretty much everybody except for
DJ.
Me and Hank went 12-4. Josh went 11-5. DJ went 9-7. So I mean, everyone had a winning record. Not that bad. So just for perspective, Hank has 100. He's 140-84 on the season. I'm 131-91 on the season. Josh is 121-93 on the season. And DJ is 114 and 122 on the season. He's been above 500 only once this season.
Man.
Gotta stop picking
Let's
them
get straight
Browns.
into these picks. So, a very huge playoff implicating matchup and my game of the week, Baltimore taking on Indianapolis. I'm just kidding. Baltimore taking on Indianapolis in Baltimore. For Saturday game.
I'm going Ravens. I think Baltimore's, starting to hit their stride, and it's at home. They've done really well this year at home, and they're not sleeping on anyone right now. They are taking every game seriously because they know they control their destiny. So they're not looking at any team like, oh, we got this. They're looking at every team like, we need to go out and get this.
Yeah, so. I'm going Baltimore too. I think that Indy's just at this point just unless they're willing to upset them, then they're just playing for pride at this point and looking for a higher pick.
I think Indy at this point is kind of damaged goods, just because.
So we're all going Baltimore, unless DJ wants some adventures.
I'm going Baltimore just because they're a better team. They just have more. They just have more going for them right now. They have a playoff spot to lock up. The Colts are still worrying about what's going to happen to Andrew Luck.
Okay. Next, this would have possibly been a huge matchup if the Packers were still in the playoff chase, but they're not. They're eliminated.
Yeah.
Minnesota at Green Bay. This is huge for the Vikings because they're trying to ensure. I believe if they win, they clinch a bye week. I think. I'm not sure if that's true. I know they got the division. It's just take my word as don't take it as gospel. Just I don't know. But okay, Minneapolis going to Green Bay. Who you got? I got Minneapolis.
I got the Vikings.
I got the Vikings as well. I don't see the Packers winning unless Brett Hundley just channels everything. I think that the Vikings have the
like Brett Hundley has a Matt Flynn type game. Just go out there. It's the end of the season, no playoffs, so he just doesn't even care. Flings the rock for 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
You know what? That would be too funny. Let's just beat him. No, but okay, guys. Huge. So the first 1:00 game, like we were talking about earlier, a huge matchup in terms of what could possibly happen for the Week 17 games. Tampa Bay going to Carolina, take on the Panthers. Tampa Bay just trying to play spoiler. Carolina, personally.
I got the Panthers.
I got Panthers.
Yeah. I think that the Buccaneers can make it close because it seems like they're kind of hitting their stride, but this is the way the Panthers are on a roll. I think the Panthers win.
Okay. Next game, we have the clinically depressed Factory of Sadness as Cleveland going up against the somewhat less clinically depressed Factory of Sadness in Chicago. At least they got a franchise quarterback.
Picking the Browns.
I am too. I already have it written down.
I'm going with Chicago.
The Bears have, every time in the last few years, the Bears have had a double-digit home the double-digit home, that they were favored by double digits. They've lost. Every time they've been favored, they've lost at home. I'm picking the Browns. They've got to win at some point. Last year they won Week 16. This year they're going to win Week 16.
Lord of mercy.
Just like Vicky Valancourt from The Waterboy. That's how it's going to be, Lynn Swan.
Alrighty, next game, another huge matchup in terms of one team trying to get to the playoffs, the other playing spoiler. Detroit going to Cincinnati, taking on those Bengals.
Give me the Lions. I think the Lions, like Hank said earlier about the Ravens, I think the Lions are hungry, and they kind of control their destiny too. They need to win as well. And they go against the Bengals this weekend. Give me the Lions.
I like the Lions in this game as well. I think that right now the Bengals aren't very motivated. They've really they've really lost their luster ever since they lost to Pittsburgh. Like ever since that the game was what 20-3, and they lost everything after that. I think that was their ticket out. So I'm picking the Lions.
I'm gonna go with Detroit. I would not be surprised if the Bengals won. They are 4-3 at home. So like that could also play a factor. But then again, who knows? I'm going with Detroit. I think they win.
They're 3-4 at home.
Still have a better record on that home. You get the point I was trying to go with.
The Lions are 5-2 away.
Shut up. Next is another huge game. Miami going to KC, taking on those Chiefs. Chiefs are trying to, I think, with the win they clinched the division.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Kansas City. I think they close up the AFC West.
Yeah, I take the Chiefs too. As much as it hurts me to root for the Chiefs, actually, it doesn't really hurt because I really like Alex Smith, and I like Andy Reid. So I'm taking the Chiefs. I think the Raiders were a huge letdown this year, but watch those pesky Chargers. They might be able to sneak into a wild card spot in the AFC if some people start taking tumbles, a la, no offense, Wes, if you're listening, your Titans don't look too hot. So yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs.
I'm going with the Chiefs as well.
Okie dokie. Next game, it's Buffalo going to New England. Buffalo's just trying to stay in the wild card chase. Patriots trying to pretty much secure the number 1 seed. Who you got? I'm going with New England.
I got to go with New England too. I know New England got spoiled by one division foe, but I don't think the Bills are going to do it too. I know the Bills just beat the Dolphins, right? After the Dolphins beat the Patriots. But that doesn't mean that the Bills can beat the Patriots.
I'm also going to go with the Patriots, but what's his name is very motivated to beat the Patriots. The guy who got speared in the back of the head by Meathead. Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah.
The White.
Yeah. I think that he's very motivated. And no offense to Gronkowski, I like Gronkowski. He's my. No,
I hate Patriot. Gronkowski. He's a scum.
He's my favorite Patriot, but he is a meathead. But I don't be surprised if if they are motivated to win this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. Next game, huge game. In fact, I know I keep saying that, but these are actually big games. Atlanta going to New Orleans. New Orleans is trying to just wrap up the division. Atlanta is just trying to stay alive, possibly for the division. Who you guys got? I have New Orleans personally.
New Orleans.
I got the Saints are marching into the Big Easy, so it's being played there. New Orleans just looks good. Alvin Kamara is coming back. The defense of the Falcons, like we talked about, just kind of looks weak. Give me the Saints all.
And it's surprising that Julio Jones doesn't get looks in the red zone.
No, not at all. He lost me my fantasy last week. I only lost by like.
He's got 1,200.
I lost by 4 this week.
He's got.
I lost by like 4 in my league too, and it was literally because Julio Jones put up like 3 points for me.
Julio Jones has 1,200 receiving yards, 76 receptions. He's just struggled all season. I think him more than anybody on that team is the most affected by that Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to, before we move on, the Falcons have gotten incredibly lucky. Like the fact that they missed the field goal to go into overtime. The Bucs pretty much trip over themselves. Saints trip over themselves. Don't be surprised if the Falcons come back to reality. And I don't want to say the back to reality, but like don't be surprised if they end up losing the next 2 games.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. Let's just move on. Next we have the Chargers going to New York to take on those Jets. I got the Chargers.
I'm taking the Jets.
Jets. Jets.
Suck.
The Jets. Hey, the Jets have been sneaky, and guess what? They beat the Chiefs the other the other week, and guess what? West Coast teams are historically horrible playing on the East Coast. They lose, and it's like a dismal record, especially the AFC West going over to the East Coast, abysmal. So I'm going with the Jets.
Okay. Next game. LA Rams going up against the Titans. With a win, the Rams clinch the NFC West. Or Seattle loss. I'm going with the Rams to pretty much clinch the NFC West and put the Tennessee Titans in a free fall.
I'm giving it Wes. I'm so sorry, my buddy Wes out there, but I got to go with the Rams. He even said it. We went to the Niners game, and he said that the team they're not playing good football, and he said they don't even deserve to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking the Rams as well.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Final 1 o'clock game. Denver at Washington. I'm not even going to go into that game.
Yeah, Washington.
Hey, Denver just won last week, guys.
Gee, against the Colts. It's not like
No, but they're also 1-6 away too, and they don't even know who their quarterback is. I think they're trying to start Paxton Lynch.
No, I'm joking, guys. I'm picking the Redskins too.
All right. Now we get to the 4 o'clock games. The first one on the docket. Jacksonville going to San Francisco. This is a tough game to pick.
For the first time in 3 weeks, I'm picking against the 49ers. I'm picking the Jaguars to win this game.
Hank, I agree with you on this one, buddy. I think that Jaguars defense, I like Jimmy G. I don't think his receivers can get open enough.
No.
Mm-hmm. I'm going with Jacksonville. I think they put an end to Jimmy Garoppolo's little winning streak. I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers won, but I think that the 49ers they lose, unfortunately. Yeah. Sorry, Jimmy G.
Jimmy G.
Next, serious game of the week. This is actually, and I'm not joking around either. This is a huge game because this will knock someone out of the playoffs. The other stays alive. I'm referring to is the Seattle Seahawks going on to Dallas to take on those Cowboys with Zeke returning. I'm going with the Cowboys. No, not because I'm a fan. I just think that we saw what the Rams did to Seattle. I would not be surprised if Zeke shreds that Seattle defense. I'm going with the Cowboys.
I am actually going with the Seahawks on this one. Sorry, Ricky. It's
fine. Keep doubting us.
No, I'm just. Well, I mean, I guess I'm kind of doubting you guys, but it's just because I think that the Seahawks I think they're going to rebound from that tough division loss, and I think they're going to be hungry.
Well, and I just want to be perfectly clear. It's just the Seattle Seahawks are a completely different team on the road, and I think that the fact that the Cowboys defense, I know they're missing David Irving. But the fact they got Sean Lee is a completely different team.
Sean Lee is. According to Skip Bayless, Sean Lee is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. If he does not, if he does not play,
Sean Lee
if he does not play, then the Dallas Cowboys will not have a good offense.
Shut up. The point being is that I'm taking the Cowboys because what the Rams did, and considering the Rams did it in Seattle, yes, I understand it's a division game, but I'm not going to be surprised if the Cowboys.
I'm going to have to agree.
Have a great
pick the Dallas Cowboys here. The Seahawks look dead in the water, and if there's one team out of all these teams that are fighting for playoff spots that absolutely don't deserve to go to the playoffs because of their classless organization, it's the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm gonna pick the Dallas. And I actually won't be that pissed off if the Seahawks don't win or if the Seahawks lose because Dallas deserves it way more than the Seahawks do, in my opinion.
Let's be honest, and I don't want to be biased. I feel like the Cowboys would make the playoffs much more interesting than the Lions or Seahawks would.
But not the Falcons.
Or the Falcons.
All right, so let's go to the next one.
Okay, next. Oh, Jesus. Next one is it's versus Arizona. In Arizona, I'm going with Arizona.
I'm picking the Cardinals, too.
I'm going to pick the Giants. DJ, if you're out there, I'm picking the Giants.
Right. I'm waiting for that comment where he's like, oh, man.
I know. I'm picking the Giants.
Yeah. So that does. I think.
That does it for the Sunday games.
Yeah. That does it for the Sunday games because there is no Sunday night football. Next, 2 Monday night games. Jesus, these aren't even good either. The first one is Pittsburgh at Houston. I'm taking Pittsburgh. I don't even need
I'm
to get
taking Pittsburgh
specifics.
too. I think even down Antonio Brown, I think that's a rhyme. Down Antonio Brown, I still think they win.
Yeah, I'm going Pittsburgh too, as much as I hate cheering for Pittsburgh. But all Pittsburgh has to do is if the Jags win out the rest of their games and Pittsburgh loses to the Browns, then Pittsburgh won't get home field advantage.
Yeah.
I don't even think they'll get a bye.
No.
Well, that's assuming that the Patriots don't lose. But that'd be funny. Who are you going with, Pittsburgh?
I'm going with the Steelers.
The Steelers.
Okay, final game. The Oakland Raiders going up against the blackout Philadelphia Eagles because the Eagles all of a sudden want to use these uniforms rather than against the Cowboys, whatever. Let's be honest, Philly's gonna wrap up here. Oakland looks dead. I think Oakland's gonna be very deflated. I mean, I think their playoff chances got they missed it by a yard. I think that sums up the Raiders season in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I picked at the very beginning of the season this game would be won by the Eagles. I'm gonna pick a closer one here. I don't think that Nick Foles has quite as good of a game as he had against the Giants, but I think that the defense changes up their game plan. They know what they have to work on, and I think that they're going to play better.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're 6-0 at home, so yeah. I say you run the ball. You run the ball. You don't put Nick Foles in harm's way. You play defense, and I think this game is a win.
Yeah, but I will say this. Look, if you're the Eagles, I think you cannot. I don't think you can rest people because you don't want people to get hurt. But my argument is you don't want to go into the playoffs rusty. But then again, who knows? All right, guys, that does it for all the picks. DJ, I'm hoping he'll send his picks. We can find that out. This is going to definitely be a very interesting week of football. I mean, a lot of playoff implications on the line here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I think this is going to be an exciting weekend, and I won't be able to make it on next week's show, guys, because I will be with family around to celebrate Christmas. So
I'm pretty sure we're not doing next week.
Yeah. So
and I will not be. So it'll be just DJ and Ricky too, because Kelly and I will be at a bowl game.
Oh, nice! Congratulations, guys.
We're going to Levi's for the bowl game.
We'll see what happens.
It's called the Foster Farms Fight Hunger Bowl. So we're gonna be fighting hunger.
Nice.
Who's playing in the bowl game?
Arizona, Purdue.
Ew, that's a horrible game. No, I'm kidding.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The tickets are $25 a person, so.
No, they're gonna be $2.
Gonna be $2.
I'm just mad because Penn State should be in the college football playoff. They're not because thanks Ohio State.
Kelly agrees. Ohio State isn't in it either, though.
No, but they killed their bowl chances or national championship chances.
By winning.
Yeah. All right, guys, that does it for this week's show. I hope you have happy holidays.
Josh,
we haven't said it.
Do you have anything else to say, or are we done?
I'm pretty sure we're all done. I'm just doing kind of closing.
Okay.
That's good. We'll update. We'll get DJ's updated stats later or updated picks later. So everyone have a great night. Have a happy holidays, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Don't.
Don't.
We'll see you for playoffs.
Yeah.
And we'll hope that I'm not on suicide watch if we lose.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a great night and have a happy holidays.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.